Well, there's nothing like Selection Sunday day. I mean, remember my first one. I remember a couple where I was sitting waiting for the second to the last name to come up, and thank God today ours came up early. And it's ironic. Bryant, Phil Martelli, and I were on a lot of committees in the last 6, 7, 8 years. I'd have to say he's one of my better friends in coaching, and he just sort of retired last year. And his son Philip, I know. In fact, I called him yesterday to congratulate him on winning and getting in the tournament because I talked to Phil, and ironically now we're going to play him. So I can't say I know a ton about them. I know a little bit that their pace is very good. I'll know a lot more at the end of tonight. And, I've been part of a 215 loss. So I've been there, done that. As I told my team, when you stay here 30 years and you're in 27 or 8 NCAA tournaments, you kind of been through everything. And so I don't feel comfortable with anything, and I don't feel afraid of anything. And that's kind of the place I'm at and where I'm at. So questions, I'll take them.
Tom, I posed the same question to Jaden. Growing up, your mother would say, I can show you better than I can tell you. And was the Wisconsin game that kind of game, that infamous trap game that possibly happened that you still can live to fight another day with?
Guys, I've heard a lot of people talk about that, and there's no question that 2 weeks ago Wisconsin was maybe the best team in the conference. So there's no trap game. The trap game was going to Iowa, if that's a trap game. It wasn't for me, but I think for people. But when you're playing a team that's just as good, and we're as good as them, they're as good as us. I think what we learned, and we spent a lot of time today, we came back this morning so the guys could be with their families last night, and I had a meeting at 4:30 to really go over between 4:30 and 6, the things we did, and try to make it a real educational, not a butt chewing, not a look what you did here. I tried to make them look at it like, if you want to move on, we have to take care and figure out why we did some of these things. And there were some things that we had control of that we didn't do a very good job of. A kid got hot. If you look at some of the shots he made, they were unbelievable shots. I'm watching the first half of the Michigan game against Wisconsin, and I couldn't believe the shots that both teams were missing, but that's kind of what happens. And so I don't think it's a wake-up call. I think what you try to do every day, and no matter what you do, this is what I've learned about 20-year-olds, that I was probably the same when I was 20. Until it happens to you, like it happened and it's a setback and we had a chance to maybe win a conference tournament and then we didn't get to move on. But as I told them, the next time you lose a game, you hang up the sneakers, But, it's still, what I'm harping on is you trust my experience and I'm going to trust you. And if we do those two things, we got to have 4 good days of practice and go win ourselves the first round game.
Hey, Tom, obviously the streak is well known, but how much does this year feel a little different, because this is the highest seed you guys have had in like 6 years, that as compared to just your last 4 teams or whatever it is?
Yeah, I mean it feels different because we won the Big Ten, because we won 26 or 7, whatever we won. I don't know what that is. You should know, so let's put the pressure on Matt. In my career, I don't know how many times we've won 26 games, probably 5 or 6. 6 or 8. And, and I don't know how many teams. There's been a couple, but I don't even know what Magic's team was at the end of the regular season, or it definitely wasn't this many wins. So I look at it as we've won a lot of games. We've played an incredible schedule. I am, like everybody's going to be critical of this and critical of that, and a little, ironic on how not more than 8 Big Ten teams got in. It's easy to say I don't think we got the respect we deserved when I wasn't one of the schools that was on the bubble. But, I thought Indiana deserved to be in, and maybe even Ohio State, especially looking at some of the teams that got in. And it's the hardest thing about this tournament. I wish we'd go back like it used to be. The analytics, they can stick them where the sun doesn't shine. The this and that, they can do whatever they want. But I still say football does a better job with the eye test, and that's taking nothing away from the committee or anything. But I just think that it's more real, and maybe that wouldn't be good either. But I do think the Big Ten deserve more than 8 teams, and I guess we got to do a better job as a league. But for me, I'm ecstatic on where we are. We played awfully good ball against, I don't know if we ever had a stretch where we played that many high-powered teams in critical situations, on the road, short prep time. I think we're prepared for the tournament. But as you saw today, if a best player scores 32 one day and goes 1 for 14, if fatigue sets in, I don't know, Wisconsin plays tonight and then they go to Colorado on Thursday with, I don't know, where does Michigan go, but that's the one issue of playing the late game, as good as it is to win a championship. So I wish I would have been playing today. I like where we're at. I think we got some work to do because there's some things that we saw on film today that were definitely fixable mistakes. And it's okay to shoot bad, but it's not okay to make mistakes that should be fixable.
Just looking at Bryant's roster, but I know you haven't really probably dug in all that much on it, but notice they have some high major transfers, and I'm wondering how much at this point in the tournament, this is the first time you've been a high seed really in the portal era. Have you noticed any changes with some of the lower seeds when they get some of those high-end kids who have come from top programs?
Well, number one, Northern Michigan got high-end transfers. Everybody's got high-end transfers, it seems like nowadays, and I guess that's why those teams win. If they get 5 or 6 of them, I don't really know their roster. I will in a half hour, but I don't know it now. And yeah, that's more challenging. It means that they got really good players, and some of those guys might have played in the NCAA tournament somewhere else. I know very little about him right now, but I do know, not because he's my friend, I do know Phil's kid is a very good coach, and he sure as hell been brought up right, because Phil was one of the best coaches. When he was at St. Joe's, he was unbelievable, and did a hell of a job there, and his son was all part of it, and he's got 2 sons in coaching. It's a coach's family, and we'll have our work cut out for us. It's just the nature of the beast nowadays. When a 1 beat a 16 a few years ago, it kind of changed everything. And now nobody's safe, So I won't sleep any better than I slept last week or the week before. But at least I know ahead of time who the competition is. I know who's in the next round. Our theory here, you got to win the weekend or you don't move on anyway. You do have to do it one game at a time, but we will prepare for all 3 teams a little bit. And I learned that from a lot better coaches than me. And that's where our program's at. That's what we'll do. And we'll start tonight.
Tom, this is the first 2 seeds since 2019, and your program's been through a lot since then. And I'm curious, when you look at the way you've been able to sort of, the revitalization, the resurgence this season, how much of that can be sort of proven or backed up with the NCAA tournament this year?
Well, first of all, we really do get screwed on if you want to say it from the 21 season, but everybody knows we were we would have been a top 2 seed in 20 when COVID came. So, we were a very good team that whole time. I could argue with you that was one of my best teams in the last 3 weeks of a season that I've had. And Cassius, had gone through that terrible thing, and and he was just coming on at the end. And Xavier, I mean, that team was really good, and I think could have made a deep run. You never know. So it hasn't been quite as long as you guys want to make it, if you ask me. But whatever's good for, I was going to say for print, but it's not that. Whatever's good for clicks is good for me, I guess. So I will go with you guys. But it's a good question. It really is. You want to make. I don't want to do it because to prove. I don't have nothing to prove. I really don't. I'm comfortable in my own skin where a program's at. I mean, it was 2 years ago, we were in a Sweet 16. If we win that game, we lose in overtime, we might be in a Final Four that year. You know, it's amazing how that works. I saw somebody write an article, well, they haven't been to a Final Four in 5 years. Gene Katie hadn't been there in 30. You know, and I love the guy. But more important than that is one of those years we didn't even have a Final Four. So it gets misconstrued. But listen, when I was growing up and I was here as a GA, I think it was Mark Aguirre was at DePaul. And I don't know if it was 3 or 4 years in a row, you know, they got beat in like the first round or something. And I remember one year he walked back from the arena, which was 4 miles away, to the hotel, and really good teams, you know. It's a funny time of year, and there's a lot of things that happen. And if you thought there were distractions and things 4 years ago, 5 years ago, it's nothing like what these guys are going through now. Nothing. I heard Steve Elford had a hell of a piece that you all should read. I haven't read it yet either, but I've been told about it, you know. And that creates issues for guys, you know, and you're seeing a lot of this, right? I mean, we just saw a team win the Big Ten that a couple days ago was not playing very well. And you see a lot of this. And I used this same sign the first meeting we had this year. I said, you're going to see a lot of this year. And people don't want to accept that. I think it's going to happen a lot, and you know, unfortunately, we're seeing coaches getting fired because people don't understand how difficult it is. So I'm not proving nothing in the NCAA tournament. I'm hoping to continue to win games, but I really am smart enough to know, and I think most of you are. The reason it's called one and done is one bad minute and you're out. And the NBA doesn't have that. The NFL doesn't have that. Major League Baseball doesn't have that. Football does have that. And that's what makes college basketball in the NCAA tournament. They don't have Cinderellas either. I mean, there was a couple of schools that haven't been to the NCAA tournament 50 years. You know, can you imagine what those kids are playing for, and the hype and the excitement, and that kind of stuff makes you play at a whole different level. So I'm not trying to validate anything. I'm not trying to say, here, I'm not dead yet. I'm still relevant. I got a good team. Yesterday proved it because we didn't play great. And you know, it's a one-possession game with seconds left, and we've earned that. You know, whatever happens here, this will tick off all our fans, all the media, and everybody else. Whatever happens, it doesn't change. 30 games, 32 games we played, 33 games. There has been consistency in 33 games. I think you could add up the points we lost by, and it might be 20. Maybe a few more, I don't know, maybe not even that many, in total lost points. So consistency's been there. We got to go out. We got to hope some guy doesn't catch fire and score 30. We got to hope some official doesn't make a couple of calls on one of our best players and get in foul trouble. We got to hope nobody gets injured. There's so many factors in how you advance in the NCAA tournament. And I'd say the number one factor now is not injuries, it's not getting hot, it's not getting cold, It's not the officials. Can't blame it on the media. I'd like to, but I can't. But it's the distractions. It's my favorite line, the dirtbags and distractions. And that's what these kids have to deal with these last 2 years that they never had to deal with. And, that's what I'm trying to do with my guys, keep everybody focused on the task at hand.
Tom, after all these years, I'm wondering what still excites you the most about this next few weeks? Like, what is it? The new opponents? Is it what is it that really gets you going?
Number one, it's practicing when it's still light out. I've said that for 20 years. We usually have a meal up on the concourse before we leave, wherever we go, just so I can see the sun shining and we're still practicing. It's not dark out. That means you've advanced. That's number one thing that excites me. Number two is just how many players and former players for us. Tum Tum stopped by today and he came into the meeting room. He was here yesterday for the games and he stayed overnight. And time of year it is, guys. It's part of our DNA here. And so I'm excited every year. I told them if I see one guy entitled, I said, I'm sure as hell not entitled. I've been to 27, 26, 28 of them. I'm still counting the COVID year. But everyone's special. Everyone's exciting. You hear that music as they start it. You look and see where you are. You work until you look uglier than you do right now. I mean, those are all good things, man. And those are why you have the job, to be honest.
And you brought up, 16 being the one for the first time kind of changed everything. Would you attribute kind of the uptick in upsets in these types of games to maybe